By Thundera! Can this be real? Have my eyes been bewitched by Mumra? Or is that a brand new Super 7 Ultimates Thundercats action figure? Oh my gosh! It's real! It's brand new, and it's in my possession! I have it! It's physically here! Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and man, I can't believe it. I thought I was living in an episode of The Twilight Zone where Super 7 kept on showing all these pictures of brand new awesome Thundercats toys, but all they kept releasing was Lion-O after Lion-O. To say that I've been looking forward to this action figure is the understatement of the year. You know, like, Slithe back in the day was always my favorite mutant, and you know what? He was the only toy I had back then. You know, I didn't have any other Thundercats toys, and in all honesty, I don't even remember seeing any friends that had any Thundercats toys. This is the only one I remember from back in the day, so Slithe always made a huge impression on me, and I've just been dying to get this brand new one from Super 7. So, without further ado, what do you say we open this reptilian bastard up and take a look at him? Oh man, I can't wait. Let's see, here we go. Lion-O? No! No. No more Lion-Os. For the love of Jaga. What? Man, I just had the worst nightmare. I must have fallen asleep listening to my monotonous drone. So, your figure comes in this very awesome brown mailer, which carries on the Masters of the Universe Classics tradition. And once you open that up, you get some more packaging. Some pretty awesome packaging, but first you're going to have to get rid of this plastic bag. Once you discard that plastic bag, inside you get all the good stuff. And, you know, this Slithe box just looks awesome. You know, it continues the same style that the Wave 1 figures had, and Slithe is Wave 3, by the way. Wave 2 hasn't even come out yet. But, like, just the cover of this box is awesome. Like, I love the Mumra dueling snake logo. It's very dark. You have a very deep shade of red here. Down here it says Slithe. You got nothing on the sides, but I do want to point this out and show this. All right, this is Slithe's box. Here is the Lion-O box from Wave 1. All the other Wave 1 figures came in the same size box. Like, look how much deeper this one is. That's awesome. All right, on the back here, it just says Thundercats. Down at the bottom, it says Contents, one figure with accessories. Over there is the Super 7 logo. Up top here, it just says Ultimates. You know, so that is all good. Is there anything on the bottom? Just some information that nobody cares about. All right, so you look at the cover here, and it looks really awesome. But you know what's even cooler than that? The action figure inside. Oh, geez. I took out my lamp. All right, so here's Slithe inside of the box, and this just looks awesome, right? You have this giant window, so you can see all of Slithe's body in there, and that looks, you know, that just looks great. You know, right off the bat, all I can say is he looks fantastic. You know, he looks just like I would want him to look. And I can't wait to see what he looks like next to Lion-O and Jackalman, and seeing how he, like, scales with all of them, and, you know. So in this video, I'm going to compare this action figure to screenshots from the cartoon. I think Super 7's goal now has kind of changed a little bit. I think maybe before they were focusing on making this thing like really connect with Masters of the Universe Classics. But as these waves keep on getting advertised, it looks like they changed the bodies a little bit to try to make them look even more like the cartoon. So we'll see how accurate this guy is to the cartoon. And we'll also I'll show some screenshots of him using these weapons. I love this extra head here too. I mean, that just looks like him going, yes! I ordered all of Wave 3 through Super 7, but I also ordered an extra Slithe just because I wanted to have one that was mint on card. I just love the packaging, so I thought, you know, if you were going to have any action figure from this line mint on card, it might as well be Slithe. I got this extra Slithe through Big Bad Toy Store, but I'm going to open this one up, and I'm going to leave the one I get from Super 7 closed. For some reason, Big Bad Toy Store shipped this guy before Super 7 has shipped anything. This happened with Wave 3 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates as well, so I don't know what's up with that. I also don't know what's up with Super 7 having to push back the release of Cheetara. At this time, we're only supposed to be getting Jaga, Slithe, and Captain Cracker. Chitara has been pushed back due to some kind of error, factory error or something like that. I don't even remember what they said exactly. If I had to make like an uneducated guess, like a complete assumption, in my opinion, what happened was whenever Super 7 released those shots, like the production shots of Wave 3, there was some negative fan reaction due to Chitara's hips. You know, for some reason, Super 7 keeps on putting like female hips like really, really far apart, and it looks kind of weird. I think because there was a negative reaction to this, I bet they were like, oh crap, we need to fix that before we release these, or people are not going to be happy. But like I said, that's just a guess. On the back here, you have this really amazing artwork of Slithe. I think that this is the same artwork that was used on the reaction figure, which I'm cool about because I didn't buy any of the reaction figures, but I really appreciate the artwork from that line. So I'm glad I have a copy of it in hand now. All right, so down at the bottom it says Slithe. Slithe is the leader of the reptilian mutants from the planet Plundar. Once a field cook in the army of General Rotaro, Slithe cheated his way into power and followed the last of the Thunderians to Third Earth in hope of capturing the Eye of Thundera for himself. Trapped and forced to serve the powerful Mumra, he continues to plague the Thundercats from his base in Castle Plundar. That's actually a pretty perfect summary of everything you need to know about Slithe. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about Slithe. Not too much, but you know. So let's open this guy up and take a look at the action figure within. Beware, Thundercats! The sinisterly scheming Slithe has broken free of his plastic and cardboard prison. Now, I want to address some kind of controversy that might be taking place in the comments below. Yes, sometimes I accidentally say Slithe. For some reason, I've always thought that's how you pronounce his name. I'm aware that you actually pronounce it Slithe. So I will try to say Slithe as much as I can. Slithe! But, you know, of course I'm probably going to make some mistakes and still call him Slithe. Like Scythe. So, all I can say about this Slithe figure is, holy crap, this guy is spectacular. If you were one of those people that wanted Super 7 to make the Thundercats toys even more cartoon accurate, you got your wish because, you know, this guy looks like he leapt right from the screen. His face looks perfectly proportioned. The silhouette of his body just nails his intended form. You know, I feel like this could be like a little bit of a difficult task. I think his design could easily look off or clumsy if they didn't perfectly capture his mass and, you know, body proportions. All the parts just work so well in relation to one another. I'm speechless. You know what's really amazing too? Is that this is the first Thundercats Classics or Ultimates figure since 2016. The last, like, actual figure we got was Panthro. And then, you know, Wave 1 of the Ultimates are all re-releases. So, 5 years. My goodness. Alright, so before we get on with the action figure review, here's just a little bit of information about Slithe. Yeah. Slithe appeared in the very first episode of the Thundercats. Unlike Monkeyan and Jackalman, Slithe has a unique name. All the Monkeans and Jackalmen are called the same thing by the Thundercats. Hey look, there's a Monkeyan over there. I don't think they ever say the name of Slithe's reptilian race. They just say that he's a reptile, and he hisses his S's like a snake. But his body is more like a lizard or, I don't know, like a iguana or something like that. I mean, what kind of reptile is he supposed to be? Another unique thing about Slithe is most of the Monkeans and Jackalmen all look the same, but Slithe appears very different from the rest of his race or species. They don't really share the same hunch he has or have his same bulk, his short, stocky, bald man body. They have smaller ears, and they usually have light blue circles around their eyes. Unfortunately, there's not many specific episodes about Slithe or where he's like taking the lead of the story. He is the leader of the mutants, so you'd think he'd get like a spotlight episode. But the other like three mutants, like Vultureman, Jackalman, and Monkeyan, they sort of have like these episodes that are built around them. Like Monkeyan, you know, grows in size, or Vultureman develops a super potion, or Jackalman rebels. Slithe is just kind of always there, you know, doing his job. The one episode that's mentioned on the back of the box that goes deeper into Slithe's backstory is the two-part episode Feliner. In that two-part episode, Vulture Man reaches out to Rotaro and he brings him to Third Earth, hoping that he can help the mutants destroy the Thundercats. Rotaro is a high-ranking general in the mutant army, which means that, he outranks Slithe. And this means that Slithe is only a leader of a small faction of mutants that travel the Third Earth to, try to get the Eye of Thundera. It would have been interesting if they actually went to, Planet Plundar and went deep into the mutants' backstory so you can see even more creatures and stuff like that. See, when I was a kid, I used to always think that Slithe was just the overall leader of all mutants. I don't even remember if I knew about Planet Plundar or any of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting to me that, there are people above him who we never even see. Are there kings in Plundar, or what's going on there? So anyways, in that episode, Slithe is super pissed because he hates Rotaro. Slithe used to be Rotaro's field cook, and Rotaro mentions a few times how, he used to work under him as his fry cook, just to break Slithe down a peg. It reminds me of Tommy and Goodfellas. Hey, Slithe, go home and get your shine box. Eventually, Rotaro fails, and Slithe challenges his leadership, and he tries to take control back of the mutants, but Rotaro is not having it. Very easily, he's able to, assert his command or dominance over Slithe and the other two mutants. I would have liked to see Slithe and Rotaro actually have a battle, but unfortunately, we never get to see that. I always loved Slithe's unwavering evil nature. He's always scheming and willing to do whatever it takes to get the Eye of Thundera. He'll even pick on the blind. Thundercats was great because the villains were never silly. Slithe and the mutants didn't fail because, they were bumbling idiots. They failed because the Thundercats are brave and they're loyal to one another. Even though Slithe leads the mutants, you can tell he has contempt for them. They all have their own selfish desires and interests. They all want to be the leader, so they can never work together and get ahead. Slithe leads like a tyrant, but deep down, he's also a coward. I like when Slithe looks anime sometimes in the cartoon. I think that's pretty funny. Mummura is more powerful than Slithe, so he probably thinks that he rules over him. But Mummura is a little foolish because he doesn't realize how often Slithe manipulates him. Slithe will often go to the Black Pyramid and talk Mummura into carrying out one of his evil schemes. One final thing about Slithe that I always laugh about is in the episode Return to Thundera, the mutants build a giant robot called the Warbot, and they mention a number of times how it looks just like Slithe. To quote WilyKit, a nightmare vision of that reptilian rascal, Slithe. This thing doesn't look anything like Slithe, however. I mean, it's got 4 legs, and the head doesn't look anything like him. Man, when you got this thing in hand, you're amazed. It just looks so awesome. It looks like a perfect 3D representation of Slithe in the cartoon. It's gigantic, and it's super heavy, so you're sort of getting some of your money's worth. I think that they could have possibly included some more accessories, but I'll talk about that a little later. I think here, Super 7 really tried to get this guy as screen accurate as possible. I think a lot of his muscle definition is the same, especially in the arms and the forearms here, and these kind of fat thighs. But I'll show you some screenshots to compare these in a second. And just his scale too. You'll see in a little bit how he scales with Lion-O. This is great. The only thing that I can really point out that is kind of like a noticeable difference from screen to toy is this blue color. In the cartoon, it's more of a light gray or light bluish gray, but here it is really kind of like sky blue. Other than that, everything else is just awesome. And I don't know, this really is awesome. I really have no complaints about this thing whatsoever. I mean, just look at it. The face on this Slithe looks perfect. You know, there are some episodes of the original Thundercats cartoon which were animated by different animation companies, and sometimes like the nose will be too thin or too long and it kind of throws the proportions off. But you know, this looks like perfect. Looks like the usual like model sheet look for Slithe. So I think they did a really good job. Here you can see it in the cartoon with his mouth open. And here's a shot of him with his mouth closed. I even like that they included those like mouth dimples like above the tops of his lips. You know, this is just phenomenal. The headpiece is pretty similar. It could maybe get a little too thin or something like that. It might be a little more rounded in the cartoon, but it looks good. You know, I can't really complain about that. The red jewel or whatever that design is in the middle of his forehead looks pretty awesome too. It's pretty shiny. Yeah, like, man, like I said, I can't tell you how happy I am with this guy. The build of his neck, like how his head connects to his shoulders, just looks awesome. Like, you know, this guy has this gigantic hump, and yeah, if you look at him in the cartoon, like here's a 3/4 shot. It matches this toy like perfectly. Like all the mass is there. You know, like I said, I have no complaints really. If you look at the profile here, and you can look in the cartoon to see like where the head sits in relation to the shoulders. Sometimes it's a little different. Like I said, different animation companies work on it. You know, sometimes not everybody's following the model sheet, but in general, this toy matches what you would want, which is, you know, that's great. You can actually look up the model sheets on, well, they have them listed as concept art, but I think they're like the model sheets on thundercatsho.fandom.com. And you can see that like this toy matches that model sheet. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Super 7, you know, looked at this and, you know, based this action figure right off of this model sheet. It seems like they followed this design very faithfully. Even if you look at like the spikes on his back, if you count them and kind of figure out where they are in relation to his spine or whatever, or where they would be on his back, they all match up. He's got the same amount of spikes, and they're all pretty much in the same exact spot. So most of the spots, too, are around the same spot, but a few of them are kind of added on this action figure, which I think is fine. Unlike the show, Slithe's body is covered in just texture. Everywhere you have all these like scaly bumps. They look pretty awesome. If you really want to get like nerdy about it or whatever, it looks as though it is possibly mirrored on both sides. Like there are some dots that line up perfectly, and then some that don't. So I don't know. Like that dot and that dot are definitely the same, but I don't know. I think it's mirrored, but maybe I'm just making it up in my head. The arms match up really well to the cartoon. You know, sometimes in those episodes, sometimes he'll have like short, kind of more muscular arms, and then other times he'll have longer, thin ones. But in general, these look good. They look good with the rest of his body. The muscles definitely appear more Rankin Bass than they do like Masters of the Universe classics, especially in the forearm. Like sort of some of these muscles in here kind of match how it looks in the cartoon. This one arm, you know, you have this band going across the biceps. And then on the other side, he sort of has this wristband with these little, what do you even call them? Sometimes this band can be pretty big in the cartoon. But, you know, it's there and it looks pretty good. Slithe has this very cool, like, bull skull emblem, or I guess it's not an emblem, but it's a design on his chest here. And that connects to these straps, which kind of work as suspenders. You know, they go all the way around. Keeps his belt in place, which holds up his loincloth. I really like this because, you know, all these different things on his clothing, or I don't know if you consider this armor, you know, they all have a very different texture. So it makes them all look like different types of material, which is really cool. Like the straps up here that go from the front all the way to the back, they look very leathery. His belt is very smooth, so, you know, that looks like a different type of cloth. The paint helps this design here look kind of like metal. And then down here for the fur loincloth, you know, it looks like it has all these different strands of hair or fur. So that looks cool. In the back here, you see how he has like these gray clips holding this part of the belt up. Those are present in the cartoon, so another cool little detail they got in there. In the cartoon, Slithe does have these, like, I don't know if they're like fat thighs or just very like muscular thighs that droop down over his knees. You know, these look perfect. They look just like the cartoon, so that is really great. Even in the lower part of the leg here, like if you look at his like his calves and his shins and stuff like that, that really matches the look of the show too. And in the cartoon, he does have 4 toes just like this, so it looks like they covered everything. His tail is a good size, you know, it looks just like the cartoon. Yes, in the cartoon, he does wear like black underwear underneath his fur loincloth. The paint on Slithe actually looks really cool. It's very clean and crisp, which is great. You know, there doesn't seem to be any like slop that I've noticed on this one. I've had it on a few other Super 7 figures, but this one actually looks very clean, so I'm really happy with it. As I mentioned before, you know, this light blue, this sky blue, doesn't really match the look of Slithe in the cartoon, just because it's like a little too dark. In the cartoon, it's a lot lighter. Here on his chest here, it looks like, I can't tell if it's like, I don't think it's worn. I think that there's like some kind of, like maybe they were trying to shade it a little bit with like a darker color, but it's kind of hard to pick up. Other than that, like the rest of his body doesn't really have much shading. You got some in here, some in the forearm muscles. Like all the pieces in the head look very nice and clean. There seems to be like a wash on the straps, which makes it look even more like leather, so that's good. One of the negative parts here is the hands. Like this hand is like a tad bit darker than the forearm and, you know, the rest of the body. And like you can really notice that. Like you see how light that green looks next to this dark green. Other than that, like the green I think is a pretty nice green. It's probably not as like puke green as it looks in the cartoon, or dark green. It's a dark green but a more vibrant color, so I'm okay with that. The other thing is his feet down here too. These appear darker than his lower legs and, you know, the rest of his body. On the bottom of his feet here, you have this light color blue, which you can see in the cartoon. So, you know, there you go. That's pretty good on Super 7. His hands also do have this light blue coloring. That's just like the cartoon too. Now, for some reason, there's sort of like a green coat, like a green paint on top of this. I don't know if that's shading or what that's supposed to be. So there's definitely a lot of this like darker green sprayed on the back here. So that's good because that really brings out the scales. The only real sloppy paint I have is where they painted this yellow on top of the fur. So that kind of stinks, but, you know, these things happen. Alright, so on to articulation. Now, Slithe has some pretty good articulation. You should be able to get him into some nice poses. It's a new style of articulation than what was included with the original Ultimates or Classics Thundercats action figures. So let's see here. You have like a double-jointed, ball-jointed neck. So there's a big ball in the base of his neck, and then you have a little ball behind his head. See that? Now, it is kind of difficult sometimes to get this head back in place when you're popping this head on and off. Because sometimes when you try to push like the head on that ball, it'll just kind of move the rod, you know, to the side. But it works well. I mean, you can get him to look up. If you do look up, you got a little gap under there. But he's like stands so low that if you have him looking up, you're not even going to see that gap. He can move to the sides pretty well. And like, man, just looking at this guy, I don't know. It's really cool. Yeah, you can rotate the head around about that much before his ears get stopped by the spike here. You have no upper torso articulation. In his shoulders, you can rotate them around, but you have to be, I would be careful with the strap. You know, you don't want it to rip or anything like that. So they can rotate 360, and you do have a hinge here for his arms to rotate up and down. You don't have a bicep cup. What you do is you have a swivel in the elbow. So he sort of has like the same, I would say maybe almost like the same points of articulation besides the ab crunch as the Ultimates figures. They've just been like moved into different areas. Like the bicep swivel is now down here in the elbow. The boot cut is now in the knee, sort of thing. You do have a hinge there, so you can rotate his elbow. His wrist rotates all the way around, plus you have a hinge there. You can rotate the upper torso and the lower torso. I think you only have one. Maybe it might actually be a ball in there. Yeah. There's a ball joint, I guess, somewhere in here. His lower torso connects to his upper torso, so that's cool. You sort of have ball jointed hips where they can hinge out this direction. You can rotate them down. You can rotate them forward and back. You also have a cut here on the tops of the thighs, so you can rotate the thighs. It's a little tricky, though. You have a swivel for the knee. The knees have a hinge. You have ankle rockers, and the ankles have a hinge. So that's cool. His articulation is pretty stiff, too, which is good. Sometimes the Ultimates figures, they get pretty loose when you're moving around, but he seems pretty solid. I'm pretty happy with him so far. His tail only has a swivel, which may be a bit of a disappointment for some people. I think it's a little bit of a disappointment. It'd be cool if you could kind of rotate it up a little bit, like if it had like an actual hinge or something in there, but that's all the articulation Slithe has. One thing I was really looking forward to look at is how Slithe looks next to the Wave 1 figures. Slithe is a big change in this line for a number of reasons. First, he has a completely unique body. His muscle definition is more like the cartoon as opposed to Masters of the Universe Classics. He has a completely new style of articulation with hidden joints, which is a much more style with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates figures. And last, Slithe was made in a different factory. I honestly think that they look great together, I think the quality of plastic seems pretty similar. It's pretty sturdy. I was unsure. I thought maybe once they moved to the other factory that wasn't... Because, they always keep talking about how the factory that they're using for Wave 1 and Wave 2 makes, like, Mattel toys or something like that. So I was wondering if they moved to the new factory, would that be, like, a decline in quality or plastic or anything like that? But no, it actually seems pretty good. The paint actually matches. Now, because this Wave 1 Lion-O was kind of darker than he's a little darker than he appears in the cartoon, I guess. Maybe because he has this darker blue on his body, maybe that fits in better with the whole aesthetic. Man, it looks cool. The only negative thing that I would say is that this Lion-O, he's got all the hinges in his body. Like, this looks so, like, sleek and, I don't know, just really awesome looking. And then now, on Lion-O, you have these joints. I would imagine that in the future, Super 7 is probably going to re-release the Wave 1 figures again, only with new sculpts. But if they do that, for the love of Jaga, wait until, 2 more years. Give me 12 other figures before you decide to put out another Lion-O or a Jackalman or something like that. But he works really well, and scale wise, he actually matches what he should look like in the cartoon. In the cartoon, he is shorter than Lion-O. He's just huge. So that all works. Yeah, originally when they were making this line, I think that they were trying to take some artistic license with this. So they made Jackalman huge to make him more imposing and threatening when he's fighting Lion-O. In the cartoon, Jackalman is probably about the same height as Slithe. So, he's a lot. in my opinion, he might be a little too small to be like a threat to Lion-O. So, like, I'm perfectly fine with Jackalman being this size, but if you're going to have an Ultimates Jackalman that's, like, this tall, you needed to make Slithe bigger. That would be, like, one of the only things I would point out. But now that it seems like they're changing their focus and making this more of a cartoon-friendly or cartoon inspired line, I think that eventually they will have to release a brand new Jackalman figure. But like I said, give me some time. Release some other guys. Please, give me Vulture Man and Bengali first before you give me another Jackalman, please. Super 7 has really done an amazing job with Slithe. I'm stupefied. It really drives me crazy that this line just can't get moving already. I mean, it could be amazing. It could be one of the best toy lines out there, but it's been plagued with so many delays. Oh man, Super 7, you better get moving here before Lion-O comes and gives you a massive wedgie. Now, onto accessories. Slithe comes with some awesome accessories, but because he is an Ultimate, I feel he could have used a little more. Maybe I'm just being a spoiled brat. I mean, this guy is pretty bulky compared to the Thundercats, but Super 7 just revealed their Slash Ultimate figure, who I kind of feel like looks around the same size or bulk as Slithe. He's probably taller, that's for sure, but, you know, he comes with a ton of stuff. But Slash and Ninja Turtles sell more, so maybe the extra profits make up for all that extra stuff. Who knows? The Thundercats cartoon was great because the mutants didn't always have to use the same weapon in every episode. This kept things a little spontaneous. But having said that, there are some weapons the characters prefer over others. And most of the times, Slithe uses this very cool looking axe. Now, this toy axe looks just like the cartoon, you know. It has like the same kind of piece at the top here, and even the blade is very similar. Jackalman had an axe that was very similar to this, but probably more stylized because they kept like the point at the top wood instead of, you know, I guess what is that, like a blade or a metal or something like that. So, you know, but it is very cool looking. I like that in the Thundercats cartoon, the mutants actually sword fight sometimes. You know, it's not like they always just kind of run away when they get scared or something like that. There actually is like some kind of blade fighting in the cartoon. Later in the show, I know there's a time when instead of fighting, the mutants actually shoot like lasers out of the tops of these bladed weapons. But I can't remember exactly what episode that is. And if I find it, I will mention it below in a pinned comment. In the cartoon, Slithe can hold this axe with two hands. Here you can see that. Lots of times he uses this with two hands. Unfortunately, this toy, you know, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time getting him to hold this with both hands. First of all, the rod or the stick is just way too short. I mean, you can get it in there. Come on. That's another thing, but I'll get to that when I get to the hands. You can have him hold it with two hands, but, you know, if you want to try to make it look like he's actually swinging at people, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time. You know, some of that is also due to his, like, body shape. You know, because he's, like, so unique in how he's, like, designed, it's kind of hard sometimes to get the arms in the right place. Just because like the head or the rest of the body get in the way. But you know, that's just what you're going to have to deal with because that's how Slithe looks, you know. In the cartoon, you can get away with that because you can break bones and you can do whatever you want when you're drawing things. But once you get like an actual 3D solid object like this, you know, you're limited a little bit. Up next, you have the mace. And this is just really awesome looking. It's very big and bulky. And it looks like it would do a ton of damage to the Thundercats. It has the same length of a rod as the axe, but, you know, a mace is like a one-handed weapon, so, you know, that's not going to be that big of a deal. And he can hold this really well with his hands, so, you know, that's all you really need. Now, unlike the axe, Slithe only uses the mace like a few times. There's only been 2 episodes so far that I've found him using this mace. Maybe he uses them more later on in the later seasons. I'm not really sure, but he uses it, and I think it's called Superpower Potion. He uses it when he's going to attack Vulture Man, and he also uses it in the episode Trapped whenever he's trying to kill Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Slithe can hold the mace with one hand, so, you know, that's all good. Last, Slithe has the axe that was inspired by the original axe in the original Thundercats storyline. It was not really in the cartoon, but they probably based it off of the cartoon design. As you can see, the original one is a brighter colored axe. There are some things that I think are kind of stand out on the original one. Like, I like how these like little blades here, they actually look kind of like teeth. This new one, it doesn't have like those edges around it, so it just looks like a very flat piece of metal. It's still very cool looking though. Like, you have this extra line here and a lot of these scratches and stuff like that. So it is cool looking. It is roughly the same exact size as that original axe. What I do like about this axe is that it looks cool because, like, the handle, or this, you know, this rod or the staff or whatever you want to call it, I like how it actually looks like kind of rough, you know? It looks like Slithe, like, took like a tree limb and just like put a blade in the middle of it and started using it as an axe. You know, it's very unique and makes him look even more like barbaric and stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty cool looking axe. The staff on this axe is a little longer, so you should be able to get him in some like maybe better two-handed axe poses. As you can see, this one is just a little bit shorter. If you want Slithe to hold like an actual long two-handed axe, you can always just use Jackalman's axe. The only issue is the staff is maybe a little thinner than the other staffs, so it, you know, it might slide around a little bit in his hands, but in general, you can get a good look with him with holding this thing. Alright, so now we're going to talk about Slithe's hands, right? He has two sets of hands. He has like more like an open palm hands, and he has these gripping hands. First, I'm going to talk about these gripping hands and just talk about how like tight they are. They are extremely tight. And like sometimes the paint wears away on them a little bit when you're like putting the weapons in and out of them because it's such a tight grip. Like, you can barely move these fingers at all. So unfortunately, as I've been taking this you know, this older styled axe out of his hands, I do get like some like blue scuffs. I don't know if you can make that out. It's very difficult to like shoot this for some reason. I'm having a difficult time getting my camera to focus on this axe and to actually like lighten it up that you can see. But there is blue scuffs on the axe, right? Furthermore, as you continue to take that axe, you know, out of the hands, you know, you're going to start wearing away at this paint. In fact, I kind of did a little bit over here by the thumb. You can see a little bit of the green in there. You know, it's not going to be that big of a deal if you're always going to have him holding a weapon. But, you know, if you want to pose him with just his gripping hands, you know, that might start to wear down a little bit. Even the mace and the axe, just getting this in there is a struggle to get it past this. And even this, you know, I'm starting to get these blue scuffs. And I kind of think, I kind of wonder if it's like kind of wearing away a little bit in there, because I think maybe as I've been putting weapons in and out of his hand, maybe this is getting more of a loose grip. Up next, you have his more expressive hands, or reaching hands, or whatever you want to call them. I like these hands a lot too. I think that, you know, you have him holding a weapon in one hand and have him doing something with this one. You know, you can't go wrong with that combination. And it just looks like he's like, you know, ready to pounce on somebody. Like, I think these hands look very, very nice. And, you know, I will also say that in general, like the paint on the nails is really nice. The palms of the hands are nice, except for, like I said, it's weird how I believe that they tried to shade the palms of the hands, but they used a green instead of a dark blue color. Almost kind of like Robin in Batman the Animated Series. If you ever look at Robin, it's like the shading on his shoulder or like his pants and stuff like that. It's a blue. It's not a green. But like they do look really cool. Like they look very proportionate, and they don't like kind of look clumsy or anything like that. They just look very, very nice. And last, you just have Slithe's extra head. Now, I've shown him throughout this video using both heads, and I think both of these are great. I think both of them work really well. They both have like an expression that you would expect Slithe to have. So, no complaints. They could have possibly given you an even like more like yelling kind of face or something like that, but I don't know. I can't complain too much. I think both of these look really awesome. Here's some other accessories I think that Super 7 could have included with this Ultimate Slithe. I think they could have given him one of these warp gas bombs or grenades. He uses that in the episode with the Brutemen. He uses this warp gas to like enrage them so that they go and attack Lion-O. They could have possibly included like a net or maybe a club with spikes or something like that. And really, that's about it. Like Slithe doesn't use too many different weapons or anything. In the future, you have the cool Thunder Tank come in. It would be cool if you had the Nosediver, but I don't think that this figure articulates enough that he could actually lay down in it with his, he can't lay down with his head sticking up. But they could release a Sky Cutter. He could ride around on that thing on your shelf. Jackalman came with some cool mutant guns, like the net gun, and I was wondering, how does Slithe look holding that gun? You kind of probably have to hold this with the more expressive hands, and it looks good, but the hands don't necessarily line up perfectly, but you can mess with it a little bit, it'll be fine, I think. This gun, which like the mutants use to like cut through metal and stuff like that, is probably way too small for Slithe. He actually uses it in a few episodes in the cartoon, and it's a lot bigger in that cartoon, and this toy is just a lot smaller. Same thing with this other gun. This gun I think is way too small for his hands too. I think Monkeyin is going to have a bigger version of this gun, or at least that's what it looks like to me. It'll be interesting to see how this fits in Slithe's hands. Now let's take a look at a few comparisons here, see how Slithe fits in with some other lines, and, most importantly, show how he looks next to this original Thundercats Slithe. I mean, this came out in 1985, is the copyright on the bottom. So this is, 36 years later? It's 1 year younger than me. So, like, obviously this thing is amazing, right? I believe that they had made all the designs and started working on the cartoon first, and then the toys came second for Thundercats. So, he does have like all the same details, except for like a really big one, he doesn't have this headpiece. What's up with that? Why didn't they give Slithe the headpiece in the original toy line? It seems kind of silly. Like a lot of the colors are, off. He's got a lot of purple on him. He's very dark. His dark green probably matches the cartoon more than this more vibrant green. He does have that like sort of like, squatting kind of pose or something like that. He's a little hunched over. Don't fall over on me. There we go. But just like look at all the mass and the bulk that this new Slithe has. Like this one was cool back then. Like I said, I had this as a kid. I played with it all the time. I remember specifically playing out in the dirt and stuff like that with this guy, and my hand-me-down He-Man toys and whatnot. But it's just really amazing to see like how far we've come with toys. It's cool because these toy companies keep on trying to like, go for nostalgia. So like these toy lines never die. They just keep on getting re-released, and in some cases they get better and better. So like, I think Super 7 did an amazing job of upgrading this, I guess it's an upgrade, putting out a new Slithe figure that's inspired by that amazing cartoon. Here he is holding the axe, and you can use like these claw hands or the expressive hands to hold weapons. sort of like, like this axe is going to slide all over the place, but for this, it works. Now, the gimmick, the old action feature of these old Thundercats toys is they have a little knob on the back of them that you can push down to make them attack. My Slithe does not work so good. Here he is standing next to that like Funko Savage World. I think that was that. Primal Age was the DC one, right? And Savage World was all the other stuff, I think. Here he is standing next to that Slithe. And, that was such a good idea. Having Thundercats action figures in the same scale as your original Masters of the Universe classic, or Masters of the Universe toys. The only problem was the execution just, was not there. Those had a lot of problems. Here's Slithe battling the Masters of the Universe Ultimates He-Man that Super7 put out a couple years ago. One of the things I didn't think about when I was talking about the articulation is sometimes when you're like trying to set him up in battle positions, it's kind of hard to get him to point his eyes in the right direction. So, you're just going to have to mess around with that a little bit. He really does just look awesome no matter who you put him next to. Here he is next to all the Snake Men I have. Now, this is the crossover I've wanted to see forever. Like, why haven't they ever crossed over Masters of the Universe and Thundercats and have Slithe, team up with the Snake Men, or have the mutants team up with the Snake Men? I need to see the Snake Men fight Lion-O and the Thundercats. It just makes perfect sense. Here he is next to some of Super 7's Ninja Turtle Ultimate action figures. Now, this might be one of those things, too, where, like, each one of these lines is very stylized. It's doing its own thing, and might not necessarily mix the best. And here he is next to some of NECA's Fred Wolf Ninja Turtles. I kind of feel like maybe this is a better mix. I don't know. What do you think? Man, I've been dying to get this guy ever since Super 7 first released their promo shots, when they put up their pre-order. And the wait was worth it because this Slithe is amazing. I think everything about him looks very similar to the cartoon, and I just feel like they completely nailed it with this. Like, I can't think of, other than like the blue color, I can't really think of too many negative things to say about this. It's just, this action figure is a great 3D representation of Slithe, and I think that Super 7 did an amazing job. And I apologize in this video for saying his name incorrectly. But what can I do? It's been branded in my head since childhood. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. As soon as I get my shipment in from Super 7, I'll try to get out my Jaga and Captain Cracker reviews. So, talk to you later.